welcome to DefN. This is episode number 76, the so-called Desi episode of DefN. Finally. As if everybody got tired of hearing to, one Indian, listening to one Indian. We brought two more into the podcast. So this is Vijay from Holland, and then we have Ray from Belgium.
Yeah.
And we have two awesome guests from all the way from India. I think almost it's midnight there. Thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself, guys.
Okay, I'll go first. So, my name is Kartik. I'm in Bangalore. I work for Gojek. So currently, I'm building an observability platform for Gojek.
Nice.
Come on, Harry. You're next.
Cool. My name is HariOm.
You're
I
already
have been.
anglicizing his name.
Oh,
Yeah, you could call me.
sorry,
call
that's
me
a total
anything.
fuck up.
No,
I'm
that's
pretty sure that's what you said earlier on. God damn it. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Harry, not Harry.
Oh, what's the difference? Okay.
yeah. You
Oh,
could
man.
say
Sorry.
Hari is Indian for Harry. You could say that. So yeah. So my name is HariOm. I didn't expect this to play here. So funny. Whenever I speak my name and introduce myself as HariOm in India, what happens is usually people greet me back because it's also a greeting. HariOm is also a greeting. So at times I introduce myself as
okay.
HariOm, and people are like waving back at me and say like HariOm, and then I unearth
Yeah.
the fascinating fact that it is my name and not a greeting. So. I am also working in Gojek, and I come from Rajasthan. Right now, I'm in Jaipur. It's an interesting place to be, India, and I'm glad that I'm here with you folks talking about India and closure. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we should say Hariom, Hariom, as a
Yeah.
saying hello and your name as well.
And
Definitely,
is
you
it
could do
like
that.
a formal greeting, Hariom, or is it like a slang?
It's a pretty formal one, but a bit
All right, okay.
reserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit reserved into areas where you are more into right wing and religious folks. But yeah, pretty formal one. at that.
Right. Okay.
I think it's pretty much Hindu religion thing. So I think other castes, other religions, they probably won't use that one to
Yep.
greet. So it's a literal name of God. So you're just saying, whatever, something. Anyway, on that Hariom, that's going to be our greeting from now on DefN.
Yes.
This is already becoming proper Desi version now.
Yeah, getting a.
We should
fantastic
just switch to
education
Hindi
here.
now, and this is going to be like a Hindi episode now.
Uh-oh.
Anyway,
I mean, really, given the fact that the majority of people, in the world, certainly more people are Indian than English. So, this is probably the right balance of Indian people versus English people in the world.
yeah.
We're doing something right today. Yeah.
I think we are hitting like 2 billion demographic now. So our listening rating is going to be like number of plays are going to reach skyrocketing today now.
Right.
After this episode, like there is 2 billion Indians going to listen to this shit, and they're like, wow, this is amazing.
We are the vegetarian closure podcast, number one
Yes.
vegetarian closure podcast. So that should
Yeah.
appeal to a lot of the demographic in India, I think.
Yeah, I'm already appealed.
But I think we should. you're already into this, but Kartik, you are a vegetarian as well, or you're non-vegetarian?
Vegetarian.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice. Okay,
that's
I think HariOm is also vegetarian. I think it's like the biggest vegetarian podcast ever now, including number of guests and everything.
Yeah.
Nice. There is one common thread across UK and India now.
This is the proper, really, in some respects, this is like home for this podcast.
Yeah.
Closure, vegetarianism, and
Yeah.
English and the colonial friends.
So what is your colonial friends, quote unquote? Sure.
Please speak, colonial friends. Oh my god.
Well,
Shashi
speaking of
Tharoor.
vegetarian thing, let's start with the food then. Because
Yeah,
we're Indians.
Right.
Yeah. So what's your favorite vegetarian? Well, what's your favorite dish? Maybe Hari.
yeah, I'll definitely go for pav bhaji. Uh,
Ooh.
it's one of my favorite.
Pav bhaji, nice,
Yeah. So Ray is basically some
awesome.
curry with all the veggies available in your market, local market, and then you have
Right.
this bun, and it is
Hmm.
you basically grill it with some butter and make it.
Hmm.
It's very
Yeah,
delicious, and you find the best around the street at the corner, like some vendor is
Hmm.
selling, not in the malls or anything. You must try it if you
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
already.
yeah, like a proper street food.
I haven't. No, no, no. Well, I'm hoping to come out to India, after the pandemic, after the Delta is all done. So,
Nice.
it would be really nice.
And you, Karthik, what's your favorite dish?
So mine is kadhi chawal.
Ooh,
It's very
okay.
specific to Rajasthan. Yeah. So it's a curry of chickpea flour and curd
Yeah,
Hmm.
and rice. Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Pretty.
Bean
Is
curd
it?
or soy curd.
No, no, just yogurt, curd.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think we use curd more in India than yogurt. I think yogurt is more American sounding thing for the same thing, I
Yeah,
think.
American.
Hmm.
Because we also culture it, right? Because we keep it in like boiled milk and then we culture it ourselves. You make yogurt
Yeah,
curd at home.
it's a nightly routine in
Ah,
every
right.
Indian
Okay.
household. And
Ah,
Yeah.
there has been an old saying that you only want to live in a society or in a place where you can borrow curd from each other. Like it is okay for you to borrow curd from each other
Yeah.
because it's a nightly ritual. If you
Yes.
let's say finish your curd today, how will you culture it for tomorrow? So you might have to borrow. Just be ready for that.
Mm. Yeah.
There's first time I'm hearing this.
Now you can see how Indians are how different from each other.
Versatility
well,
coming into the
you're
play.
not alone, Kartik, that's for sure.
A lot of people are hearing this for the
Yeah,
first time.
yeah, yeah. Yes, yes. I think it's like a big deal. If you travel somewhere, you don't have your quote unquote curd at home. So when you come back, you always go to your neighbor and then bring the starter for the rest for the next day or something. So
Right.
that used to be a
Okay.
thing in when I was living there as well. Anywho, speaking of curd, I think we can move to C to C to
Wow.
closure.
Wow. This is such a terrible transition.
this is this is like one of those, the Batman episode. Batman, what the comedy one on the TV.
the
Uh,
old one.
yeah, the old one with
Yeah.
the guy.
Bruce
I
Wayne.
forgot it. Yeah, Bruce Wayne. Exactly. No,
No,
Bruce Wayne is the Batman.
Bruce,
It'll come anyway. So
wait,
they're.
you guys did not tell us about your favorite food.
Oh yeah, right.
yeah.
Ray, go ahead.
Well, I mean, well, okay. Shall I just go favorite food full stop or favorite Indian food? Maybe I'll do a bit of both.
I think
You
both.
know.
Yeah.
Both.
Well, my wife is she is half Guyanese, and she was from her father was Guyanese Indian, so she makes quite a nice chickpea curry, um, which is that's really delicious. Lots of different spices and herbs and things like that. So that's always a treat when we have that. Yeah. And I'm actually like a vegan now, so I've gone crazy. Went more than vegetarian. So we're starting
You
to
upgraded yourself.
I'm upgrading or downgrading. I don't know, but we're sort of like trying out different things. So I'm getting into ramen. So we have
Hmm,
some. There's a thing called golden ramen, which is really delicious. Lots of a nice broth, lots of different kinds of things you can throw in there. Um, yeah, so I'm enjoying that a lot as well.
nice.
So how about you, VJ?
Me, my most recent one is we recently discovered that we can add like charcoal smoke to whatever we are cooking.
Oh,
So now we're making dal makhani, and then dal makhani is a lentil
hmm.
thingy with a bit of a butter and all that stuff, and then we now smoke it with charcoal and ghee, so it tastes delicious. So that is my recent favorite thing. Actually, I just made it like 10 minutes ago.
Ah.
Mm. But this time with moong dal. I don't know how many people who are listening to this. You're like, what the fuck is this? What are they talking about?
Yeah, but we need to open people's minds, you know. That's good. This is all
Yes.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we're all doing
No, I'm
closure
loving
to
this.
put
Yeah,
food
this is
food
really
in
good.
our plates. So
Yeah.
closure is now pointing us to food anyway. So
The
Yeah,
funny thing
henceforth.
about Indian food in Belgium actually
Mm,
is that it's really bad. You know, like in England, if you have Indian food, there is a diaspora. So
yeah.
there's lots of people in England that make good Indian curries and good Indian food. Probably not exactly like you would have it in India, but it's, you know, it can be spicy and strong and fiery, and you know, or it can be mild. So you've got a good range. Whereas in Belgium, everything is kind of watered down. Everything is like all the spices are taken out. It's a very emasculated sort of curry over here. So that's
Yeah.
why we end up making our own at home, you know. And a lot of the Indian folks that come like on AIT gigs and stuff like this, they all do it all at home, and they're bringing the boxes in every day for lunch, you know. When I used to work in an office, that was. So we'd be
Yeah.
always queuing up for the microwave. It's like, that's
Yeah.
one
I
of the
think the
things that I don't know if
spiciness.
that's true if in India, but do people take a lot of like home cooked food to work, or is it sort of just when you're in the West?
There is still, I think, a culture of cooking food at home. Although in places like Bangalore, because of Swiggy and because of our collective laziness, a lot of people are ordering out. But you won't dine in like places which are very
Yeah.
fine, because as you mentioned, the curry is it's very creamy and all. Like, you don't get all the spices. It doesn't hit your palates as well as your homemade food.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Look at us talking
Anyway,
about
so
curries.
I think we can continue talking about Indian food podcast. I think
Maybe we can move from currying in the food
to
to
currying
currying in the
in
functional
closure.
programming. You know,
Yeah, as
that's
if
a better transition.
this
Come on.
the, come on, no way.
You know,
The
I'm
transition
partial to a bit
shouldn't
of
make
curry.
any
You know,
sense.
partial to a bit of curry. That's not bad. Come on.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, let's talk about your journey into closure, guys. Like, where did you start, and then how did you end up in a closure company in India? Because that I'm super curious about how closure is taking over India.
But I imagine you've got two different like stories to get there. So
Yeah.
maybe we start with Kartik.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can start. Yeah. So, so I'll tell you the little bit of history first. Like I'll tell
And
you
we haven't got
something
that
about.
long, you know. But no, I'm joking. Carry on. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So Gojek is an app where people order food or order cabs, and
Mhm.
we get them drivers or something, right? So there was an internal system which was written in Go, which used to find driver for our customers, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, due to our limited knowledge of Go, we wrote some code which was functional, like which was just running, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it
And which
worked.
was it worked. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very difficult to maintain. Like adding new things was pain and stuff. So we decided, since this system has very business logic and stuff, right? Why not use a functional language for it, right? So people from Nilenso were with us at that time. They helped us basically architecting that system and get started on closure at that time. Yeah.
When you say like, why not use a functional language? I mean, I think a lot of people would say, why the fuck use a functional language? You know, because like domain-driven architecture and object orientation, that seems like in the culture of like IT at least, it seems like a more natural fit. So I wonder where you got the idea from. Was it like from your friends at Nilenso, or was it like in the group? What was, because it seems like the sort of like the general culture is the more object oriented. So I'm fascinated why you thought functional would be. I mean, I agree with you, but why you thought specifically it would be a good fit.
So for me, I was a fresher at that time, so I didn't really understand functional language,
Right.
right? So people in Gojek were experienced with functional language and specifically Clojure,
Hmm.
right?
Mm.
So that's why they recommended, hey, let's start building the system in Clojure, right?
Mm.
Right.
So that's how I got onboarded to Clojure,
Hmm.
Mm.
right? So we started replicating code from Go to Clojure, right? And in 3 months we built that system and replaced it with our Go system, right?
Okay.
Oh, you meant the closure one.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
But
Yeah, in 3 months we did we migrated from Go system to our Clojure system.
close
Right.
system, yeah. But they
Right.
didn't change the company name from Gojek to Clojure. That's kind of.
Should be
They should have named
Clojek
it
at least.
Clojek. Yeah, exactly. Not from
Clojek.
Clojure. Gojek to Clojure. Yeah, I'm disappointed. Nice. Yeah.
So after that, I got well versed with Clojure, and then I built an experimentation platform into that service,
Hmm.
so that you can A/B test your bookings and stuff, A/B test your business logic,
Hmm.
and all this stuff. And that's how then to increase basically knowledge in company, we started taking boot camps of Clojure. Basically, people would used to read Brave Clojure and come and discuss one chapter of Brave Clojure and discuss like what they understood, right, and all these stuff.
Okay.
Daniel
So there is like
Higginbotham's
an
book.
internal study group
Yeah,
to
internal
to
study
gain more
group.
Clojure knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how Clojure started gaining traction in Gojek.
Mm.
Like they saw the system, the internal that system was kind of main system which worked very well,
Mm.
right? So people saw the advantages of it and started learning Clojure
Okay.
in Gojek. Yeah.
Nice.
So how many people were on the project at that time, Kartik?
I think at that time 6 people were there
Mm.
on that project. Yeah.
Okay.
So we built a couple of services regarding in Clojure, basically.
Mhm.
Then then I got moved on to a transport product for
Mhm.
reliability. There we saw that there is a lot of use case of event driven applications,
Hmm.
Mm.
right? So as and we were using Kafka for for events and stuff, right?
Hmm.
Mm.
So we started writing a framework in Clojure, which was a wrapper around Kafka streams,
Hmm.
right?
Mhm.
Plus, we built a platform where you would get monitoring, alerting
Mm.
for that framework, like inbuilt
Okay.
already, right?
Maybe we'll
Monitoring,
dive a bit
alerting,
deeper into that a bit later. Yeah.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
monitoring, alerting, and deployment also. Basically, whenever you create a service with that framework, you will get the infrastructure as well,
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So that framework is called Ziggurat,
Mhm.
and we started building it. And so currently in Gojek, we have around 200 services based on that framework,
Hmm.
Okay.
right? And that framework is open sourced also.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a minute because
Yeah.
it's a fascinating idea to make that framework. But we've got to get HariOm. We've got to get him. We've got to get his story. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Kartik,
okay.
please wrap your
So
thoughts.
I worked on Ziggurat till we open sourced it. Then HariOm took over
Mm.
that part.
Ah.
Okay.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice transition. So, how did you end up in Clojure then?
Oh
And
yeah,
then
so
coming to this one now, Hari.
just at the time Kartik was working on the allocation systems, which was the first one of the first closure services at Gojek. I happened to join GoPay, which is the payments. So Gojek is like multiple products in one app, right? It's a super app, and it's a whole
Hmm.
this payment side of it, which is Like you might think of it as PayPal. So uh, when I moved there, before
Mm.
that I was pretty much working with Ruby on Rails and JRuby and like some React here and there. I had also used like various languages in my college projects, but professionally I was mostly using JavaScript and Ruby. When I moved to GoPay, I got the exposure to write services in various programming languages. The team was small; everybody was trying to explore different things of their interests, and there was this service called user service. So GoPay had their own user profiles to manage, depending on the KYC and the kind of compliances you will
Mhm.
need in the payments domain. So this service was written in Clojure, and this was the first service I got to interact with and work on, which was in Clojure. So that's how I started working with Clojure. And soon after that, I got
Mm.
an opportunity to build applications using Kafka streams. Again, in a parallel universe, Kartik was also
Mm.
working on something similar in other teams. So I wrote initiated a couple of
Yeah.
applications, and we were basically processing business entities as events and doing some sort of operation
Mm.
on top of them, as and when we receive those events. And soon after, I got to know that a team was working on a framework to do this again and again. And I realized how important was that at that point of time in Gojek, because when I was writing those services in GoPay, it used to take us at least a month to get us that application into some shape to take it into prod or serve some particular use case well. And Kartik's team's goal at that point of time was to reduce that time to 5 minutes or so by building a framework which would set up such applications with ease
Yeah.
for developers. So that's how I transitioned to that team and like did a lot of conversations on why we were doing that in the first place, enclosure, and why were we building a platform around it, and eventually ended up working on the same framework as well. So yeah, two different streams eventually merged and diverged again. So now I work on the overall event platform for Gojek. We work on application tooling to both produce and consume events and process them on some schedules or asynchronously and whatnot. As Kartik goes ahead and
Yeah.
builds the observability platform of our reads.
Nice.
So
So,
how was the transition for you? Because if I heard you correctly, you were doing Ruby on Rails and a bit of other languages, and then you picked up Clojure, and then how easy was it for you, or how much you know your brain has changed to pick up Clojure? Because there is certain level of difference between writing Ruby versus Clojure, right?
If I can be frank, it was daunting at first, uh, and I think I
Mm.
will credit a lot of time that I took in writing that first application to this dauntingness. And if I didn't have any people who had exposure to
Mm.
writing Clojure before, it would have been months, if not years, to build that first service, because the paradigm was very different,
Mm.
and I had
Yeah.
gotten accustomed to thinking in a certain way, thinking of looking at the real
Mm.
world around me and modeling it as is into the code, and making it as transparent and
Yeah.
flexible as the real world. So that has been the key to build software till then. And then suddenly change from that to think about data as the primary thing, and operations on data like as
Yeah.
pure functions. And a lot of I derived a lot of help from all the community things that we were doing at Gojek. So we used to have these internal talks and
Mm.
discussions on, like, why first class functions are important, or why will you need them, what can you achieve with them, uh, and those things definitely help. Participating in those discussions helped
Yeah.
me open my mind a little, but I still consider myself as a newbie. I think I'm still
Mm.
exploring how I could approach the functional domain in a more coherent fashion. And I won't
Mm.
say I have gotten it as used to as I had gotten to the object oriented world, because it had been some years, and I think it will take me some years to unlearn all that and think purely in a functional way. But I am
Yeah.
really liking the journey, because it gives me another perspective to
Mm.
look at the code base. And I definitely like the conciseness in the code base, which comes with the
Mm.
lispy taste and crispy touch. Uh, and just the fact that
Yeah.
everything is a form and you don't need to
And for
differentiate
you,
between them.
sorry.
So
Yeah,
as
yeah.
Hari said that code base is very precise and stuff, right?
Mm,
So when we did a presentation at Euroclosure, right, we
mm,
show a slide where our uh, Go version of that code was around like 100 lines of code,
mm,
but then we translated that into code closure that was like around 8 or 9 lines,
mm,
and
Wow.
that was our main logic. Basically, that
mm,
was our algorithm to find and filter drivers.
Mm,
mm,
And that at that time our product manager just would just open the code and see what algorithm is running right now.
mm,
So it was that simple,
mm.
right?
Nice. But how was your before going into the detail of this one, because I'm curious about your uh, closure learning journey as well. So so when you started, there were no closure people at Gojek, or there were some people who are already experimenting with closure, but not in production. Is that right? Or there was something in production at that time?
It's Gojek. There was nothing in production at that time in
Mm,
closure, as far as I
mm,
know. But
yeah,
uh, we got a help from Nilanso and
yeah.
mm,
Niranjan. Niranjan
Mm,
that time was our CTO.
mm,
He was very well versed with closure and functional
yeah,
programming, and
yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
he helped us. Nilanso guys helped us, right?
Okay.
So I used to pair program with them and learn the like idiomatic how to write idiomatic closure code and stuff.
Yeah,
mm,
And
yeah,
they would review my PR and leave some 100 comments. So
mm.
I so I just
yeah,
used to go Google search and see how
yeah,
can
yeah,
I do better this enclosure. Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I like if I remember, my first task was to implement Hystrix
Hmm.
in our API calls.
Yeah, yeah. Netflix.
Netflix Hystrix. Basically,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
circuit breaker,
Yeah.
Yes.
right? So like it was very hard for me. I like it took around 10 days to just wrap around these closure things, right? Like what is
Mm,
defin? Like how does it
mm,
work? How
Mm,
can I
mm,
write a wrapper over it? Or
yeah.
uh, so it was like earlier it was very hard, but then Abhinav from Lenso helped me a lot. He paired
Mm,
program with me, and then he explained me this like this thing worked that way and stuff. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
how
So
I got,
basically, thinking enclosure.
yeah, thinking
That's
closure.
the
Yeah.
one. Yeah, yeah.
What
Nice.
was the biggest change though? Because the thing that for me anyway was the idea of like immutability was the trickiest part, you know, because I think you can kind of get what map does and what filter does, but the concept of immutability was like just. I mean, it seems obvious now, but at the beginning it wasn't very obvious.
So for me, immutability part was okay. Like uh, I could understand it, but for me, it was like how like I was coming from very Java-ish background. Like you will throw exception, you will catch somewhere and then write, right?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
If else.
yeah.
So that was a very hard part for me. Like how will I add more conditions to this thing and stuff.
Mm,
So at that time, those were very hard problem, but now these are very trivial things. Like now I
mm.
know how to write them in closure. Those are very simple things to write.
What kind of things? You mean like flow control or pipelines or what?
Uh, Flow control. Sorry, I'm not getting that flow control and pipelines part. Like, can you please explain that?
Well, you were saying it was you wanted to add more constraints and accept, and you were struggling with like how to do like constraints and how to manage exceptions and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was kind of very basic problems, not
Hmm.
Mm.
not that like very hard problems.
Okay,
Those are
right.
basic problems. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're trying to match your previous ones and then trying to use the same kind of things
Correct, correct. So
in
I was
closure
trying.
initially.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a hard
Yeah, I
part
think
for me.
I understand what you mean, because I think I used to have the same thing when I was writing Java a lot. I think almost for 7 years or 10 years, and then you start with Clojure and like, okay, I'm used to writing a class for everything.
Mm.
I'm used to write, accessors and getters and setters and all the shit for everything. And then you start with Clojure and like, okay, where do my classes go? That is the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
thing. Because every other language basically is trying to do the same thing, right? JavaScript has somewhat quote unquote classes, and then Ruby has classes, and Perl has classes, and everything. All the mainstream languages have the same similar concepts, but coming into Clojure are like, oh, there is no class. And it's super confusing. Like, where do I start? And I think that is probably the biggest change for me as well, to shift into Clojure mindset. Nice. So, what is your stack, by the way? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
One more thing was like lazy evaluation
Yeah.
Mm.
was a hard.
Yeah.
That was one thing I was like struggling to understand like how this will work and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is your stack look like right now? Because you said almost there are 200 plus services running in Clojure right now. So, what kind of libraries that you guys use, and what is your stack?
Uh, Hari, you want to take that?
Yeah,
Like,
many different
Yeah.
things. Like first of all, I think I should mention that 200 is just a very small part of our whole ecosystem.
Mm.
Uh, there are way
Yeah.
more number of applications and the number of developers we have. Uh, it sounds very heretical after we think about and hysterical after we think about that it was just a monolith, Java monolith when it started, and now it's like just this
Mm,
whole bunch of services. So we use various
mm,
libraries and tools. Most of the times it is line engine profiles based development environment, and we do use
mhm.
a lot of uh, Java libraries. To be honest, for example, Kafka Streams is a Java library, and
Sure.
one of the primary reason,
Yeah.
if not the most important reason, to pick Clojure to build this framework was the capability of direct interaction with Java.
Mm.
Because if you think about
Mm,
writing applications on top of Kafka events themselves, uh, Kafka Streams, which is the Java library put out by Confluent, it's a pretty much
yeah.
all you need if you want to do on something on top of Kafka events
Mm.
in a stateful manner, or like
Mm,
maintaining distributed state or whatever. So yeah, a lot
yeah.
of Java applications or libraries. Apart from them, we use for HTTP we use Ring. We have Ring-based routers,
Mhm,
and we do use
mhm.
a couple of things that we have written our own to wrap on top of popular uh, third-party dependencies. Like we do use Sentry for error reporting,
Yeah.
so some sort of wrapper on top of it,
Yeah.
some sort of wrapper for New Relic, some sort of wrapper for StatStream metrics.
Mm.
So there are a couple of those libraries,
Yeah.
and definitely not to forget something like Langor, which is a wrapper for RabbitMQ connections.
Mm.
It's a very popular Clojure library, and I think it just saves the day for us because a lot of our logic for retrying
Mm,
events works on top of RabbitMQ. So yeah, that
mm.
comes to rescue. I think there are a lot more that
Oh,
Kartik can add to the list.
yeah, so Carmine for Redis, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And Cheshire for serializing,
Yeah. Jason.
deserializing.
Yeah.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the more interesting question is like, because like like you say, you probably a lot of libraries, but in terms of like event-driven architectures, it seems like you're already looking at like three possible event-driven models because Redis is event-driven, or it could be. Um, it's got that possibility with the subscriptions, etc. You've got RabbitMQ, you've got Kafka. So how do you play with all of those things? Because that seems like it seems a bit confusing to me. Because I always think that you should have some canonical event stream rather than you know a variety of event streams. But
Yeah.
I'm a simple-minded person, so tell me, educate me.
So we use Kafka as our primary event streams, right?
Mhm.
Then we use RabbitMQ for retrying purposes, right? So I'll explain you, right? So when so Kafka has some partitions, and if you don't commit a message, the next message you will not get, right?
Mm.
So suppose if you get a message and our framework processes it, and somehow that message is not able to is not able to process because of some downstream service failure, right?
Mhm.
So we would not want that other message to get delayed, right? What
Mhm.
we would do is we would commit and put this message into RabbitMQ. Then that can be retried later, so that we don't have lag in the Kafka queue.
Okay, so your consumer is not just blocked by unprocessable messages, so you can continue moving the offset in the consumer group so you can consume the messages better.
Yeah, correct,
Exactly.
correct.
Okay, okay. And RabbitMQ is for your retrying mechanism. So you take, if it fails, then you're gonna use RabbitMQ for retry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
retry after 15 minutes, after 20 minutes, and all these
Ah,
are
okay.
like you can configure all this stuff.
Yeah. So let's
Yeah,
say
yeah.
you also wanted
So
to
where does
do,
the Redis thing come into picture then?
maybe we'll come to that. But on top of
Yeah,
RabbitMQ, you could also do some sort of delayed processing, right? So let's say you have a filter on
yeah,
top of your incoming event stream, right? And you wanted to
Mm.
say these particular type of messages I only want to
yeah.
process after 10 minutes after I receive them, because maybe there is some sort of
Yes.
implicit delay in the business process which takes 10 minutes to happen. Like for example, some manual KYC update or something.
Mm.
So you could do synchronous processing using
Yeah.
RabbitMQ. You could channel those messages, as we would call it in a framework,
Yes.
for later. So that is another use case we use RabbitMQ
Yeah.
a lot for, and also exponential backups, maybe, or like linear backups.
So
We
just a
could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
quick
Extension
question
backup.
though is like, why do you use RabbitMQ and not just another partition or another channel on Kafka?
Uh,
Interesting bit.
in
I mean, you
Kafka,
know, it's the obvious question. So
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good question as well.
I think you cannot control the delay part,
Yeah.
right? In RabbitMQ, it can be handled by RabbitMQ easily, so that's why we went ahead with RabbitMQ instead of one more topic or partition.
Yeah. And also, I think in RabbitMQ, the streaming semantics, the default ones are a bit different, because if you one consumer connects and then it consumes message, then other consumers won't get that one, because in Kafka everybody can, because Kafka is storing those messages. But RabbitMQ by default, so far, I think they released a new version now to keep the messages anyway. If you pick up the message and then it's gone from RabbitMQ, so it's
but
way
doesn't it
quote
cause
unquote
problems though in
faster.
terms of like
Well, you design
you
the
well
system
like
with that one.
diagnosing when things went wrong because you have
Yeah.
to look in two different places?
mm, yeah, I think it's
It's not your
okay.
question,
I
it's for
cannot.
them, okay?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm talking about RabbitMQ's technical things. I don't know their
Yeah.
domain, what they're dealing with, how
No, but
they're dealing
whenever
with that
you've
one.
got, it's like when you're doing like off-piste transactions, as it were, you know, on anything, whether it's a database or an event system, having to look in two places is always like more problematic, I think. I mean, it can be for good reasons, but as far as I know, Kafka has batching, but you know, maybe I don't know it well enough, don't know as well as you do. But okay, so but you pick it for this particular reason, but then when you retry things and it goes wrong, you have to do diagnostics. How do you like how do you how do you do counter like how do you like do transactions that reset things? Because it seems like you have to do it in several places. If you found
So
there's a
how
downstream
how do you
failure,
reprocess that? Yeah.
because you say you're committing them and you say it's worked, but then it hasn't really worked. So you have to, you know, you're making more complexity because you're kind of like sweeping it under the rug a little bit, you know.
Yeah. So two things, Ray. I think two semantics that really come like into play are, first of all, we leverage a lot of idempotency.
Hmm.
So we recommend the systems, the downstream systems or upstream systems, uh, which are event processing calls after receiving a message to be idempotent in the first place.
Right.
Why we do that is because let's say in the Kafka pipeline itself, let's say there was no RabbitMQ. I could have picked up a message, processed it, but there could have been a failure to commit the offset back to Kafka. So I would have processed it again when the consumer group restarts. So idempotency is definitely something which we recommend highly to all the users of our framework. Another thing is the semantics basically go about at least once guarantee, and not just exactly once guarantee. So it's not that strict. So we are okay if we can process the message, if we process the message more than once in some cases, but we are not okay with the loss of message. So I think that's basically where the answer to your question lies. That with those two concepts and like semantics baked in, we rely a lot on the downstream or upstreams to basically dedupe or maybe like maintain idempotency or not do repeated transactions per se.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
So where is the Redis thing coming into the picture now?
He's keen on
Redis.
Yeah.
Redis is everywhere at Gojek.
Yeah.
So that seems like adding one more. It all sounds like Indian masala, like let's add another thing to make it spicy.
No. Redis, I think we use is just for cache, nothing else.
Oh, okay, caching. Okay,
Right.
so you're not using it like a stream processing or
No,
Not exactly.
subscriptions or anything.
No.
Okay, makes sense.
It's not
Yeah,
basically
yeah.
part of the framework,
Nice.
but it's basically a first primary extension in most of the use cases. So we don't actually provide any Redis management into the framework. But if you look at the 200 applications, I think 80% or 70% of them would have some use case to maintain some sort of key value store or just cache, maybe persisted or non-persisted for their state.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So the framework that you released as open source, can you explain it like like I'm five or so what can you do with it? So what is the idea behind it?
Yeah, Kartik, go for it.
Okay, so earlier, so as I told you, right, that we saw that hey, there is a lot of use case of event-driven things like booking created, send a notification, booking created, find a driver, right?
Yeah.
So one part of the framework is like you can consume events and act on those events, right?
Mhm.
And one part of the framework is serving HTTP requests,
Mhm.
right? So if suppose there is a system which consumes driver location, right? Driver pings basically,
Mhm.
and it persists into its GB, and you can put some APIs on top of it, and then you can show on your customer app basically these are the drivers which are nearby your location.
Yeah.
So like thinking of these all use cases, we basically have two main parts of our framework. Basically one is HTTP part and another is event consuming part.
Yeah.
Like like if you're consuming event, you can also there is one small part which helps you to produce the event as well back to Kafka.
Yeah.
So basically the like two major parts, basically event processing part and one HTTP part.
HTTP. Okay.
Yeah.
So why are the two things related? Because or are you kind of like, are you using Kafka as a kind of like mechanism for producing like asynchronous results on the HTTP layer?
Correct. Yeah.
A lot of times, yeah.
Right. Okay.
While it also works as source of truth for a lot of business data, there are a lot of processes which are just enqueued for the later processing or batch processing as well in Kafka.
So do you use this like async version of Ring to do that, or are you doing it somehow other?
No, we don't use async version of Ring.
Okay.
So how do you get the answer then? You have some sort of like request place in Kafka and some sort of response place in Kafka, or you do some sort of correlation ID, or
Yeah, we do some sort of correlation ID. Basically, if for an instance, right, like I gave an example of drivers and showing drivers on customer app. Basically,
yeah.
here the reference is location.
Hmm.
We store driver by location, and then customer apps ask that, hey, give me driver for these locations. So location, basically longitude and latitude comes as a
Hmm.
reference in this scenario.
Mm.
And other things, they are customer ID, booking ID, and all these stuff.
But that seems like so you're treating with the Kafka streams, you're treating Kafka as a database essentially. That's
E-
really the kind of idea. Yeah. So it's not like you're putting like for the customers, you're not putting like maybe you are putting a request on Kafka, but you're answering it via the K streams, KSQL.
Not a lot of times. We are not actually yet evolved to using K streams a lot. Sorry, not using KSQL a lot. Although we have started building on some use cases of doing stateful joins on K streams, uh, but a lot of times
Mhm.
processing happens outside K stream, and K stream gives us possibility to react real time on top of events
Hmm.
rather than to manage stateful operations in real time. I think those use cases, although are very common, but they don't come as naturally to developers as like first class functions don't come as naturally to object oriented developers. If I can take that leap of faith and say
Sure,
that.
sure.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to think of is like the driver locations are changing all the time, and the
Mhm.
customer is like usually staying pretty. I mean, maybe they could move, but they're pretty static, I guess. So as the events come into the system with a new driver's location, one can imagine that that would just be a stream of events out to the client to say here are the new locations. But it seems like, are you doing HTTP or WebSockets at that point?
A lot of time gRPC as well. It's a
gRPC. All
hybrid
right.
it's a hybrid model. We have WebSocket, gRPC, and HTTP, all three of them. So
Ah.
I've seen the
Cool.
whole click stream architecture at Gojek, right? A
Yeah.
lot of part of it is also open sourced. So we have this whole mobile analytics or mobile based event processing,
Mm-hmm.
which works on top of WebSocket connections between mobile and the Kafka backend.
Mm-hmm.
There is a producer library that we have written and open sourced inside data engineering team at Gojek, which goes ahead and builds that long-term connection for you. While at other places between web backend systems and the Kafka, we have a gRPC based long running connection on which you produce real stream of data to Kafka directly.
Oh, okay.
So it's a hybrid model. Earlier, it used to
Right.
be a plain HTTP based model, which we have replaced with gRPC based model.
So are you guys looking at like HTTP2 as well?
Yeah, yeah. Not in the raw form, but with gRPC most of the times.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Yeah,
So
it's
is
really good.
Clojure only with the stream processing level, or is it used for front end stuff? Is it used for mobile things as well at Gojek?
Not much. It's mostly for.
Mm.
There are a lot of
So
places where
mostly
it
in the
is
back end.
back. Sometimes for CRUD as well,
Ah.
which I've seen practically happening at some
Mhm.
places. But if you see, most of the
Mhm.
Clojure adoption at Gojek happened because of the Ziggurat framework that Kartik and his team started, and then I also worked on. So the majority of Clojure applications are these Ziggurat-based applications. These are a very opinionated set of applications which we call actors because they act on business events. Apart from
Well,
them,
Yeah.
there are very
that's a confusing name for it.
Yeah.
I won't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Well,
yeah,
as
I
long
have.
as you don't have Akka or actors in the system or
Yeah,
Erlang,
Correct.
Erlang. People come from Erlang. It's like, oh, whoa, dude.
or Akka or Scala people. If you don't
Yeah,
have them, then the
Yeah,
only actor in the
let me
town
drop
are
another
you. So
bomb.
that's fine.
Yeah,
yeah.
let me drop another bomb and say the whole platform which we built this framework and utilized it with was called Lambda. So
So I'll tell you, it was kind of
Yep.
inspiration. Like you just write business events, business
Yeah.
functions. We
Mm-hmm.
will handle everything, basically monitoring, alerting, all the deployment. So that's why we called Lambda at first.
Right.
Then we changed it.
We envision it to
Okay.
be just a closure
Nice.
function for the
So how,
developer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's a nice idea, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, to answer a previous question from Ray, is sorry to interject. Uh, I just wanted to go back to one question that Ray asked before. You mentioned how would you go about looking at various transactions which are distributed, and wouldn't it be painful to trace different parts of the transaction and go back to like what
yeah,
was the original
yeah,
source of
yeah,
truth
yeah.
and what happened?
Mm,
As Kartik mentioned, we wanted to do a lot of things out of the box for developers at Gojek. We wanted to provide a lot of things out of the box. So
Sure.
we have a metric contract
Mm.
with Ziggurat. So each application, when it starts and processes messages, they will emit certain metrics by default. For example, if the message was processed
Mm.
with success or retry or failure, if there was let's say some sort of uh, exhaustion of retries, so all those things basically, as soon as you create an application or an actor, uh, you get a dashboard out of the
Yeah,
box which has all these numbers put up, and you can definitely go ahead and correlate with the logs at that point of time.
Mm,
uh, we were also working on tracing support with those applications so that we can have a correlation ID floating across, or a tracing ID floating across the logs and the metrics. Although that is still in alpha and we haven't tried it at scale yet.
like the New Relic type stuff.
Yep.
Jaeger type stuff, basically.
mm.
Say it again.
Jaeger, basically open tracing.
Yeah,
Right.
open
Okay.
tracing.
Open
Yeah,
telemetry
yeah.
So
based
open
So I
telemetry.
saw that that's already part of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So that's what you're talking about. Like it comes with the traceability included in the framework, so you can just deploy it, and then you get all these features by default. Nice.
and without that
Okay.
platform side of it,
So
the Lambda side of it, I don't think closure adoption would have kicked off that easy at Project.
Mm,
Because people who are not very
mm,
familiar with it, they will they are pretty much scared because of the syntax when they look at it first for the first time.
yeah.
But when you give them a dedicated place, or let's say
mm,
a editor window where you just have to write a function, uh, it comes off a
yeah,
little easy, and given all the platform
yeah,
features on top of it, the management becomes dead easy. Uh, so you are pretty much more inclined towards
yeah,
using the reusable components, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's it.
I think without that, it's tricky.
So that's how you
It would have.
sell. That's how you sell closure, by basically having a lot of value added services on top of it. So then the people have to come to closure in order to consume.
mm.
Yeah, and the
Nice.
primary, I
So
think, primary asset.
how big is the team right now, by the way?
Sorry, the whole framework team, or like,
Sorry, go ahead.
can you come again on the
No, no,
question?
sorry, go ahead. You said you're talking about the. Yeah, yeah. No, you're. Please continue. You're talking about the primary asset. I'm interested in primary asset.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think the primary asset that we were trying to save was time.
Mm,
As I mentioned, it used to take us
Mm,
2 to 3 months to build such an application before, right? And another important fact, I think, a story rather
yeah.
fact I should mention is we had this whole Ruby on Rails microservice, which was becoming a pain in the ass at the moment. And it had
Mm,
like so many dependencies that every time on Friday afternoon it would start going under crazy load, and one of the dependencies will start faltering, and there will be this huge cascading effect across Gojek applications, and like suddenly in 5 minutes, like 50 of them are down, and we don't know which one started what. And at that point of time, we didn't have a lot of
mm,
tracing into the picture. We didn't know how it started until unless we could actually go back to a correct metric which will point us to the start of the event. So we wanted to reduce those dependencies for ride service, which is the OMS for the transportation, which is one of the main businesses of Gojek. We wanted to reduce those dependencies, and
mm,
when Kartik and team started writing the
yeah.
first replacement for one of the dependencies, uh, they saw that it took a couple of months to get it out into production, and to replace 17 more dependencies like that, it would have been taken like 34 more months,
mm,
and we wanted to bring it down to 34 days.
Yeah.
And that's the primary
Wow.
thing that we saved by making this framework. And without the platform side of it, it
Hmm.
wasn't possible.
Yeah, the first use case was
Hmm.
sending notifications to drivers and customers, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
good one. Yeah.
So how many maybe I asked the team size, and now I'm also wondering what is the size of amount of people who are using Gojek app right now?
Oh,
Crazy, crazy numbers.
Because you're
Uh,
you're now yeah, because you're
that's
now helping, you're delivering stuff to so many, users, right? That is the biggest metric that closure is bringing the value to. We can say, oh, okay, you're processing billion messages, but they're actually, you know turning into functionality for end users who are doing things like transactions, ride hailing, whatnot, and everything. uh,
uh,
yep.
uh, I basically we have around more than a million drivers in the system,
Mm.
Wow. Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I really don't know about how many customers we have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it will be
Yeah.
more than drivers. Like I know that.
Obviously. Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that
So
the scale is different in the market that you're playing right now, right?
correct.
You're serving. Yeah, yeah. So it started in Philippines, but now you said it's expanded to other countries as well
Indonesia
now.
started.
Sorry,
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Yeah,
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 it
yeah,
started in Indonesia, then we expanded to Thailand, Vietnam, then
yeah.
we went to Singapore.
Okay.
Yeah,
So if we ever land in any of those countries, the first thing that we should do is install the super app from Gojek.
Gojek,
definitely.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Makes sense. To get from A to B, to pay for food, to eat, and I don't know, to breathe air, everything is from the super app.
Yeah, to get your
Groceries. Yeah.
grocery, medicines, to have like massage or something, just
Wow.
order Gojek.
Okay. Nice. So, do you guys use things like Spec or Mali or something to validate your interfaces, or in the code data validation, anything like that?
We use a lot of spec part
No. Okay.
for API request validations and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, I
So
guess that's is that how you manage like what the event messages are as well, or do you use some other format of data?
For event messages, we have a protobuf defined for every event log.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that's your schema for
That's
the
that's our
end-to-end message.
schema. Yeah, that's our
Yeah.
schema for any event.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So
Protobuf and closure don't play very nicely though.
Yeah, you're right. I had a hard time like figuring out some bug. I don't remember it right now. Like it took me like a week or something.
yeah, I think it was not built. It's I think Clojure plays well with Transit and Eden and all that stuff, obviously, and JSON. I think Protobuf is more Go level thing rather than. So I'm
Correct.
Well, there
guessing
are
it's coming
Java
from your Go
bindings,
thing.
but
Yeah.
it's kind of like it's all very static, isn't it? That's really the
Mm,
problem.
yeah. Interesting. So we've been, as we say in India, I think I should use Hindi now. No, I don't want to. We've been praising Clojure, as they say, like Gungan, something like
Yeah.
that, in Hindi. So, um, what are the challenges that you faced? Like, okay, these are the things that are making our life difficult, or made your life difficult using Clojure.
So, first part was basically knowledge gap, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
Only few people knew closure, and they would become a truck factor,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right? So, first part was learning curve, obviously, right? So
Hmm.
that's why we started our internal book club, or you can say boot camp for closure, so that more people are aware of this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And rest, to be honest, you can Google and learn. That is like language, right? You can Google and
Yeah.
learn that. The learning curve was very steep for this one,
Yeah.
and spreading it across Growth was tough job, but Ziggurat helped us to scale in Gojek. So yeah.
Hmm. Nice.
So
So how is
do you
the
still find Harry was kind of like hinting at that there's some resistance still, that they're a bit scared or a bit nervous. There are some developers out there that aren't like first love is closure.
A lot of people who have used Clojure, I don't think Clojure has become their first love yet. Uh, so they are still writing a lot of their
Hmm.
applications in Golang at the same time that they are writing a lot of these Clojure applications. So there is still a
Hmm.
diverse tech stack at Gojek, employed at like various teams having their own choices. Some still writing a lot of Ruby and Rails codes. A lot of them writing Java code. Some of them writing Elixir. Some of them are very heavily like on Golang. So very wide variety of stuff happening all around. Uh, but resistance has come
It's free
down a
loaf in
little bit.
GoCheck.
Yeah,
So
but it
pe-
has come down for sure because of the adoption that has
Hmm.
happened in recent last 3 years. It has come down a lot because people who had never written it before now have deployed applications in production, and that there is
Hmm.
to nothing better to boost your confidence than deploying some piece of code to production.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
like it just take only 10 minutes to deploy a simple hello world into production.
Hmm.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
that
So how
like
do you
that's
achieve that part? How do you achieve that part? I mean, are you like all on the cloud, or do you have a specific like ISP or some sort of like DevOps thing that's like making it super fast?
so as I told you, right, as Hari also told, that we have built framework plus platform.
Right.
Basically, framework will help you to write code faster, platform will help you to deploy, monitor, right, these all stuff. So DevOps part is also there in adoption. Basically, I would say that, because deploying things there is if you write code and don't deploy, then there is no use, right? So DevOps also played an important role there.
How do you
Hmm.
do that though? I mean, is it like integrated with some sort of like Terraform stuff, or how are you actually doing the deployment integration with Kafka and Clojure and all these things?
Okay,
I think Kartik, we should definitely talk about the image management and the deployment pipeline a little.
sure, sure. So basically, there is a command, a lambda actor new, right? When you type it,
Get it all in there. Yeah.
when you type it into the console, you will get basically a service bootstrapped with a ping API already,
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
right? And there is a GitLab CI file already built in,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And all the linting is also taken care of. Test, like all the we so in Gojek uh, we heavily rely on tests.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So test framework is also, we bootstrap test framework as well into the framework. Basically, you can just modify the function and pass in your make test pass, right?
Hmm.
So when you check in your code to we have open, we have uh, internal GitLab hosted.
Hmm.
When you commit your code there, GitLab CI takes over that part, right? It takes care of linting, it takes care of your test cases, it takes care of your packaging of applications,
Right.
right? Pushing it to the Docker or Debian Artifactory, basically,
Hmm.
right? Then when you deploy, we create VMs or Kubernetes based on customer's choice. Basically, developers.
Hmm.
Based on, we create VMs for those particular, and then to create VMs, we use Terraform, and to orchestrate things on VM, we use Chef.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So
And the
that's
deployment
how
is on your own data center, then it's not on cloud,
It's
AWS or
totally on
something like
cloud.
that.
it's totally on cloud, GCP.
Oh, okay.
But you schedule your own EC2 instances.
Not easy to. Uh,
We
we
compute engine instances. Basically, it is similar to EC2 instances from
Oh, you use
AWS.
Google Cloud.
Oh, yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
like there is part of the
okay.
company which is deployed
Yeah,
on
I mean
AWS as well.
yes, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine when you're such a big company, then there'll be different teams using different tech stacks usually, and
And
it's not uniform
especially because
across the
Gojek has
whole
evolved a
company.
lot as startup of startups. At one point of
Yeah,
time, I
yeah.
have looked at Gojek operating as 20 different startups, and over the years,
Mm,
we have acquired a lot of
Hmm.
different companies as well, and merged with different companies as well.
Hmm.
So we have inherited their tech, their stacks, and
Yeah.
their cloud platforms. So it's a pretty much amalgamation of all things. One important aspect that goes little beyond the development life cycle, uh, and but comes very handy in
Hmm.
deployment life cycle, is config management. So
Hmm.
because when we started, we wanted it to be all productive, right? Like developers to be very fast and like flash in making their applications and deploying them. We build a very simple command like lambda actor new called lambda config. So with framework, you would as soon as you will create the application, you will get same full defaults with the application ready, baked in, and you could
Hmm.
just tweak some of them depending
Hmm.
upon your environment of your choice. If you wanted to set, let's say, some Kafka stream threads count to one in, let's say, integration, you could just do that with that command, and that has come pretty handy as well because uh,
Yeah.
uh, on the CLI itself, you could manage your configuration, and then just after saving the configuration, you could just hit lambda actor deploy and be done with it.
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice. Yeah. So
Nice.
go on. I was going to say the one thing about because it's like interesting you chose Kafka because I guess again you're looking at doing things that are like cloud portable across different clouds because Google and Amazon both have their own kind of they have
Correct.
Kinesis in
Kinesis and stuff.
Amazon, and they have I think oh I don't know what the Google thing is called, but they have all kinds of streaming architectures. I know that much.
Yeah, Google Functions.
I'm not
Pipelines or
sure
some
on GCP if they have
pipes or
something.
something, or
I don't think they have anything like Kinesis. AWS has
no, they
Kinesis,
do.
but
They definitely have like a pipe, they have the whole framework to do
They have
yeah, yeah,
PubSub.
event management.
yeah,
Yeah.
PubSub thing. Yeah, Google PubSub thingy. Yeah,
Google PubSub. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's nice.
We were talking about challenges a little, right? So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
one of the challenges I think that has been very prominent is like, so we have built Ziggurat as internal open source, right? We've had a
Mm,
central small team, but we always went to the developers at different product teams, worked with them in collaboration and build features, right?
mm,
Hmm.
So in the process, we got like 30 more than 30 people to contribute to this framework from different product functions.
mm,
And in this process, to keep code very idiomatic and uh, to keep it more fresh to the eyes has been a little tricky. Uh, Now, at this
mm,
point of time, after 3 years working on it, it feels like it could have been a much more composable set of libraries than just one overarching thing. Uh, so that has been a challenge to how to design uh, both as a library and as a framework to power applications at scale,
mm.
but as well as to keep it handy for people who don't want to totally fully leverage the framework. To keep it composable as well as
Yeah.
over encompassing. I think that has been also a challenge, and I think we are seriously looking at a redesign at this point of time, for which we could definitely use
I
some
think it's
external
often the
help
case, isn't
and
it, when you've
reviewers.
got like when yeah, like when you have like an organic thing like that that's obviously it's had success, but like you say, you want to have continued success and continued adoption. And if you've got like so many people contributing to it, you've probably got all kinds of new ideas as well in the last year or two.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, Kartik and me both had very different ideas on how we wanted to do multi streams. Uh, so yeah, it has
Yeah.
evolved into
do you
what
want
it is.
do you want to like fight it out on here? You know, it's
Fight it out and then decide how
We
are we
had
going
that
to do
fight
it.
2 years ago.
you heard it here
so
first, folks. Yeah.
so I did not want multi streams. Basically, consuming from one or more Kafka topic. Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
wanted to be very simple,
Hmm.
but as use cases grow, there were like as there are more services than developers in project.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we uh, so to manage that also we had multi-stream, and there was several use cases where you have to join two Kafka topics and make some sense out of data,
Hmm.
right? Those
Hmm.
use cases started coming, those requirements started coming in from developers that hey, we want this, we want that. So that's how we built multi-stream into that framework.
Hmm.
So I think as a we are almost in a 1.5 hour now. I think we are keeping you off on a pretty much late midnight. I just have one more question about closure, and I'm curious about the state of closure in India. Like what is the how is the community there? Because I know a little bit about what is happening in Western Europe because I'm involved in closure stuff here. We keep hearing a lot about closure in the US, obviously, because that's where our Church of Closure or the Vatican of Closure is in the US, so we know that. But in India, I think it's so. What is the situation there?
Where's the
Like how many
temple?
companies?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is the Temple of Closure in India? What's
Well, I
happening in
don't know
terms of
about the
community
temple, but
there?
the tempo is definitely high.
That's good.
I've seen
Yeah.
people around who are writing blogs on Clojure. In my team, a couple
Hmm.
of folks are actively started to write about Clojure in their blogs, in their personal websites.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There is an active Bangalore community
Hmm.
which hosts a meetup every month.
Hmm.
Uh,
And
I
Hari gave
recent
a talk
I recently
recently.
went and gave a
Oh,
talk about
nice.
cigarette in that as well. There are certainly more companies than
Okay.
before who are actively writing Clojure code in production. Couple of them we talked
Hmm.
about in the beginning, right? There are a few more, I think,
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
traction I think seems to
Yeah.
be increasing,
Certainly.
but not as much as you would expect. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it depends on it's like a catch 22, right? More jobs, more people learning closure, and then then it becomes like a cycle of you know uh, kind of they're feeding into each other. But
The
I
other
think
thing,
already
maybe I'm wrong about
you're
this,
big
by
enough.
the way, is that what I find interesting about your stuff to some extent is that you're making your own decisions, and I get the impression that on a lot of and a lot of like larger consulting companies, they don't get the choices. They're essentially they're working on prescribed architectures, whereas you've got the chance to own your own architecture, and reflect on those things, and make your own decisions. And I wonder if that's a difference, or if it's just just the ingrained nature of or in the community in India.
Is that how you have seen things as well, Vijay? Because in my experience, I have always seen
Yeah.
consultants to come with their own prescriptions and their own recommendations. When I was a consultant myself 6 years back, I've seen my
Hmm.
team coming with their own recommendations. Although there were some constraints put up by how legacy the systems were at a particular target company, but we never shied away from recommending tools.
Mm,
For example, we recommended a lot of DevOps practices to companies. Right, I was in a DevOps consultancy before, so do this with the Chef or Ansible or
mm,
Puppet. Go change this whole deployment pipeline on Jenkins. Although Gojek has provided that open environment a lot, I think consultants have played a vital role in that happening at Gojek as well.
mm. So there are closure evangelists going and then telling people that there are better ways to do this stuff. and then converting them into the Church of Richeki. Right. Nice. So I think that's a good way to conclude the episode. But I'm thinking, the last question, probably the really last question, because we started with favorite foods, and I'm wondering, like, what is your favorite sweet thing? Like in India, everybody eats sweets a lot, obviously. So we should do, like, what is your favorite sweet dish
I'll
or a
start.
dessert?
My
Yeah.
my favorite is rasgulla, or the Bengalis would call it rasagulla. So it's basically a sweet
Oh,
dumplings dipped in sweet uh,
Sweet.
chashni. I don't know what will you
that's not
call
sweet
it.
dumpling, man. Like, we don't need to reduce things to
Rasgulla to a sweet dumpling,
simplest words to explain such a complex stuff.
but
Rasgulla is a
it's like
sweet
so.
dumpling. No, it's not.
It is something which doctors recommend you if you are ill.
Deep fried dough.
Deep fried
Huh?
sweets, doctors recommended. Yeah. Medicinal purposes only.
Yes.
So actually, if you have some
Nice.
like upset stomach or something, you would just wash a rasgulla with room temperature water and have it. And because it's made of something called chena, and
Hmm.
it's so soothing to your intestines,
Hmm.
it helps you. It actually helps you with digestion. So yeah, it's a good sweet. It's a. I think it should be made religious or something.
Always
What about you, Kartik?
indigestion.
Mine is also on similar lines. I like rasmalai.
Hmm.
So,
Sweet dumpling.
yes, but it is in saffron milk. It is dipped in saffron milk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
Wow.
think I would eat something called Mysore Pak. I think it's more south thingish.
yeah,
The chickpea, solid chickpea sugar brick, chickpea flour sugar brick. Pretty much, I think that's the one.
The dumpling is still better than a
And
brick,
yeah, I
man.
mean, if we go into Indian sweets, that are like, no, it's not sugar dumpling, unfortunately. It's a solid block of sugar and chickpea flour, and then
And ghee.
plenty of ghee, I think. Yes,
It's
exactly.
amazing, man. I love it.
And for you, Ray, you have to pick some Indian sweet now.
I don't know any Indian sweets. Funnily enough, I mean, I think it's the Indian sweets are very sweet to my taste. I'm not,
Oh yeah,
so
they are.
I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
it's a shock to the system to me, so
yeah.
I'm not really that familiar. So I like licorice,
Hmm.
that's how, it's more like a Japanese sweet.
Yeah. Because we were just talking over the dinner, like, in India, there is a state called Gujarat, and they're very much into sweets. Like, they eat only, most of their dishes are sweet. And we're just wondering, how did they survive? I think they evolved to process sweet, and the people who didn't evolve, they just died off. And then they're like,
yeah.
now they can tolerate so much sweet in everything. But any Gujarati people listening out there, I apologize for insulting your people. But I know we
At,
love your sweets too.
at least you
Anywho,
didn't
on
talk
that
about
bombshell,
khakras.
So you haven't
yeah,
asked your
exactly.
favorite question yet, BJ.
Yeah, we're getting there. That's my next
Okay.
or the final one, because now we have two people here. So I think we'll start with the HariOm then. So HariOm, Emacs or some other shit.
Oh,
So what do you
Oh.
use?
oh, I was waiting for this one. So I heard some of your podcasts before joining in today, and one of the parts of the podcast that caught my attention was this last part, where you would ask them Emacs or not. So yeah, no Emacs for me.
Oh.
I'm pretty much a Vim user. I have been a Vim user for last 6 years. I heavily rely on Fireplace
Okay.
to do my closure work. Uh, Although I'm not against
Yeah, I think you're
Emacs, I
not.
don't
You're
have
not.
anything against Emacs. I keep trying it on and off, but I never got used to it. So I just stick to Vim for my coding purposes. But maybe next time we meet, I might change my
You
answer.
north, you
So
north people and your north ways of doing stupid shit. Yeah, okay, fine. Now
Oh
we
my
introduce the
god.
divisions in
Yeah, the
Indians,
north.
properly. People up north, doing Vim and other random shit, and we people in the south, we know better. We use Emacs in India in south. Anyway, I'm not Indian anymore, so but I can complain loudly about India. And you, Karthik?
I use cursive.
Oh man,
Oh,
no.
awesome. Yeah.
These Bangalore city boys, no, this is just
So
horrible.
you might have more Indians on the podcast, but fewer Emacs users. So you're fucked on
Yeah.
the podcast, actually, BJ.
Well, we're gonna find them. We're gonna find all the Emacs users in India, and I
there
know
are
I
there
know a
are
few of
plenty.
them.
So earlier when I started writing
Oh
closure,
yeah,
I used to pair with Ned from Nilan. So she was very heavily Emacs user.
yeah.
Like she tried to teach me Emacs, but I could not wrap my head around it. So I shifted to cursive.
Hey, you should start eating idli sambar, and then you get Emacs. That's what they say. Now, if you're in parathas and rotis, then no Emacs for you. But anyway, on
Well, I'm a
that
fan of
division.
parathas and roti, that's for sure. So that probably explains things.
That's why you stick to cursive, and then yeah, paratha and roti, not idli sambar. Anyway, I think it's been a pleasure having you guys. I think thanks a lot for joining us. At this such a late hour. I think it's almost like 1 a.m. for you right now.
Yeah, it passed one.
Yeah, thanks for taking
Wow.
time and explaining all the stuff. It feels like I feel like I'm back in India. It's really nice to have that feeling. Talking to Indians and then talking about all the Indian stuff and finally able to
You two
understand
are
English
returning back to
properly
your
and all
roots,
this
maybe.
shitty
Returning back.
Returning back to
returning
your roots.
exactly returning back to my roots because I got sick of Ray's stupid English accent. Now finally I can understand proper English.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so yeah, on
I mean,
that
we often make this joke, though. I mean, Indian English is the most popular English, so it should be the canonical English, really.
exactly,
If you
there are
just
more
go by the
people
numbers.
Yeah,
speaking
yeah. If you
Indian
just go by the
English.
pure numbers, then
Yeah.
Indian English wins by a mile.
Then a lot of
Exactly.
standards in the world will be
Anywho,
screwed because of that.
yeah,
We
I think
might
we
as
are
well
we are
start
diverse
driving on
enough
the left
not
side.
to make one Indian. Yeah. Anywho, on that bombshell, thanks again for this amazing Desi Defen. And hopefully, you guys will continue making Ziggurat as the only framework for Gojek, the super framework. And I'm sure, your colleagues will listen to this and, they'll be like, oh, if we're not using Ziggurat, there is something wrong because, they should use it. And then eventually you will change your company name to Klojek as we suggested, and you can send us the revenue and royalty, whatever. So we are ready for that. All we need is just 5% of Gojek revenue, and we are happy. For contributing the new name from here.
Yeah, but
So
it's really nice to sort of hear success stories as well
yeah,
from India because like BJ says, it seems it's been a bit quiet over there, but it's good to hear that it's burgeoning and that the word is being spread. And obviously, it helps if you've got good frameworks and libraries. So thank you guys for doing the good work there.
yeah. Thanks a lot, and
Just
hopefully,
one thing.
yeah,
Just one.
yeah,
I'm surprised you didn't ask the meaning for ziggurat or something like.
yeah. I thought it's a Persian, Mesopotamian thingy, right?
Yeah.
It's the yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's not an
it's
Indian
a
word.
yeah, it's a base of a temple basically.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a base of our applications.
Ah,
Nice,
nice,
nice.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. So it's the foundation of all your monumental applications built on top
Yeah.
of. Nice, awesome. So yeah, I think first of all,
On that bombshell.
yes, on that bombshell,
Maybe there is one last
we
question
we hope to
hidden.
see you in person. I think soon. I guess.
Yeah, sure. Would love to meet you folks. I
Sure. I
must
think
call it out that I really felt like home. Before joining, I had some jitters to be honest, but I totally felt like home talking about all this stuff with you folks, and I hope
nice.
you were able to. I was able to get my ideas across. and would love to discuss ideas more.
Yeah, certainly,
And
certainly.
Yeah, it's
more
good.
in the
Yeah.
future.
Same here. I was very nervous joining this.
No, you guys are really smooth. Actually, you fooled us all.
Exactly. Yeah. Everything was perfect. I think I learned a lot. I never looked into ziggurat yet, but so I'm gonna give that a try. And obviously, now I know. It, as you said, it's like returning back to my roots, as you said,
Yeah. As you do that,
talking about all the
don't
sweet
forget to
stuff
star the
and
repo.
food and everything.
Yeah. As you do that, don't forget to star the repo
Yeah.
on GitHub.
Yes, go ahead, check it out. It's in Gojek repository. We'll post the links on the show notes as well as on
We're
on
really good at
Twitter.
that, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah, we are really good at that, and sometimes we do post them. But if you don't, just search for Gojek open source, and it's all. There are plenty of other projects as well, apart from these open source contributions that I see from your GitHub repo. So they're doing a lot of great work, contributing back to the community as well. So thanks, guys. Thanks a lot for joining. So I think that's it for us for
Is there a
today.
special, is there HariOm is hello? What about the goodbye? Do you have any colleagues with goodbye as a name?
Namaste. We just need to have them. I think in your company there is one HariOm and there is like Namaste or whatever, and like it's saying a
Yeah.
goodbye thing.
The good thing about HariOm is you could use it both for greetings, like welcoming someone and goodbyes.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect.
Perfect.
Okay. Namaste.
On that bombshell.
Namaste and HariOm. Yes. Wow, that's like we're carpet bombing today with bombshells. Thank you for listening to this episode of Defan. And the awesome vegetarian music or the track is Melon Hamburger by Pizzeri. And the show's audio is mixed by Wouter Dullert. I'm pretty sure I butchered his name. Maybe you should insert your own name here, Dullert.
Wouter.
If you'd like to support us, please do check out our Patreon page, and you can show your appreciation to all the hard work or the lack of hard work that we're doing. And you can also catch up with either Ray with me for some unexplainable reason. You want to interact with us, then do check us out on Slack, Clojurian Slack or Clojureverse, or on Zulip, or just at us at Defin Podcast on Twitter. Enjoy your day and see you in the next episode.